So one of the marquee games of the weekend, to me at least, and I wrote this game up, is in your backyard. SMU at Tulsa at BetMGM right now. Tulsa is a 2.5-point favorite over under 64.5. This game could basically determine who goes to the American Championship to face Cincy. There's no divisions now since UConn left. UConn is the new UMass. UMass is still the new UConn. Akron, maybe Bowling Green, whatever. But right now, Tulsa's unbeaten in league play. They beat UCF. And SMU is the only team that has one loss. And obviously Cincinnati, and that came to Cincinnati, who's undefeated. So the winner of this game is in the driver's seat to get to the championship game to play Cincinnati. Tulsa's a 2.5-point favorite here. Really intriguing game. All right, so when I looked at this game, the first thing you look at, SMU, obviously, Shane Buechele back at quarterback. They lost Roberson. They lost their wide receiver for the year. They lost their starting running back for the year, but their running game has been fine with Bentley. They're a fast-paced, air raid offense. Their defense is meh. They get a lot of pressure. They'll get sacks, but their secondary can be really exploited. On the other side, the Tulsa offense, not really efficient, with another transfer from a Power 5 school in Texas and Jack Smith from Baylor. But they can hit some big plays through the air with Stokes and company. They can't really run the ball. They also lost their starting running back for the year. So I'm trying to look at SMU, and I'm trying to say to myself, all right, who is this SMU team? Because their passing numbers, just on their system with Sonny Dykes, their passing offense is probably usually going to be really good if they have a good quarterback, which Buechele is. And they just find receivers on trees. But I do think that losing Roberson, losing Prochet is going to have a big impact when they play better defenses, which Tulsa is. I think it's a top 30 defense. And if you look at some of these SMU numbers, let's take a look at their wins. North Texas, outside the top 100 in passing efficiency defense. Texas State, like 90th. Memphis, outside the top 100. Tulane, like 98th. Navy, like 82nd. Temple, 113th. Stephen F. Austin, FCS. Those are their 7 wins. Their only loss came against Cincy, who's obviously elite, and they scored 13 points and got blown out. So I think some of their numbers are inflated on the offensive side of the ball. Tulsa, they run a 3-3-5, which is built to stop these types of offenses. They switched to 3-3-5 in 2018. Look, they held UCF to 26 points. In the last 45 UCF games since the beginning of 2017, UCF hasn't gotten to 30 twice. Last year against Cincy, elite pass D, and this year against Tulsa. Tulsa also, held Oklahoma State, another explosive offense, to only 16 points. They did have an effort against ECU, who can explode for points just randomly. Did it against Cincy last year. But I think this Tulsa defense is really good. They're led by Jackson Player up front, and their 3-man front. They don't get any pressure. They're not going to get any sacks, but they stuff. They'll eat blocks. They'll stuff runs. They're third in the nation in tackles for loss, and they open up lanes for their linebackers, which is where they're really elite, to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. You have Zavion Collins, who's one of the best linebackers in the country. He'll play at the next level. He's top 20 in a lot of pressure rates, and he's just going to make plays all over the field. And when you pressure Buechele, that is how you get to him. That's when he makes mistakes. He gets a little jittery. Under pressure this year, he's 74th out of 93 quarterbacks, minimum 100 dropbacks, with a 37 quarterback rating. 1 touchdown, 3 picks, 38% completion percentage. So I think, Tulsa's going to be able to shut down the SMU run. And I think, it's the SMU offense. They're going to be able to move the ball some. They're going to move the ball up and down the field. But Tulsa gives up nothing explosive with their 5 D-backs. They're really good in the red zone, and that's where SMU's spread attack can struggle. So I think finishing drives, SMU is going to struggle. I think their pressure and Collins is going to force Buechele into a couple mistakes. And then the other side of the ball, this explosive Tulsa, it's not going to be a great efficient Tulsa offense, but they're going to hit some explosive pass plays against a secondary of SMU that's really vulnerable. So I think finishing drives, turnovers, it's going to work in Tulsa's favor. Situationally, Tulsa coming off of a bye, second straight road game for SMU. Tulsa enormous revenge. They're going to be fired up for this one. Last year they lost in 3 overtimes at SMU in a game they should have won 50 times. They missed all kinds of kicks to win it. They were up 21 in the fourth quarter. And think about that. They lost 43-37 in 3 overtimes, up 21 in the fourth quarter. They shut down this SMU offense through 3.5 quarters. It's what this defense can do. So I like Tulsa here. Anything under 3, I think in your backyard, the Golden Hurricane, great name, great mascot name, by the way, who were going to be the Golden Tornadoes, but then they found out that Georgia Tech took the nickname back in like the 1910s. Anyway, I like Tulsa. You disagree?
I may have to go to this game live. It's a couple miles down the road from the house here, and they serve beer. At least last time I was in Skelly, they served beer. So the problem is Arkansas, Florida plays at the same time, so I'd have to bring all my streaming devices. I completely disagree with you, and I can see your points and all your angles, and I see all the stats, and there was something just eating at me and bugging me about this game, and I had to do a deep dive on some stuff to figure out what it was that was bothering me. So SMU is a team I jumped off of after losing Reggie Roberson and TJ McDaniel. I thought that they would struggle against Cincinnati. They did. But then something happened. Something clicked. Since then, 51 points on 555 yards against Navy, 47 points, 549 yards against Temple. Those defenses.
Against who again?
Yeah, Temple and Navy. I mean, those aren't Tulsa defenses. But what the hell happened with Tulsa against Eastern Carolina? So
we know Eastern Carolina can have those explosions. They did against Cincy.
I'm just saying, East Carolina had 330 passing yards and made that game interesting. And it shouldn't have been interesting. It shouldn't have been close. And the thing was, I tried to blame it on Zaven Collins, but he actually was not out that much in the game. I don't know how hurt he was. And I'm just saying, for East Carolina to put up that many yards, and the final score, what it was, and it was a legit score in a legit box. It wasn't a fraud. I kind of made me step back a little bit and say, okay, well, what is Tulsa's big problem? Where did East Carolina give Tulsa so many issues? So I went and did a deep dive on the box. East Carolina was successful, not in passing downs, never in passing downs. And what I mean by that is anything bigger than 1st and 10, anything longer than 2nd and 7, anything longer than 3rd and 4. That's a passing down. That isn't where ECU struck. ECU was 58% success rate in passing plays and 57% success rate in standard downs. And they were throwing in standard downs. The Holt Nailor's pass on 1st and 2nd down was absolutely deadly. So I went and did a deep dive on Tulsa's season-long numbers. I said, well, is this a real problem? Turns out Tulsa in standard downs. Now remember what a standard down is, right? 1st and 10, 2nd and 7, 3rd and 4. Tulsa in standard downs is 14th in success rate. They're doing a really good job of keeping teams from getting the yards they need. They're 101st in opponent explosiveness in standard downs. And that is where ECU bit them. ECU bit them hard because they passed in standard downs and put up 330 yards and almost won the game. Went and looked at SMU's numbers. SMU, 36th in standard downs explosiveness. And they like to pass in 1st and 2nd down. They have a formula that ECU used to give Tulsa trouble, and they do it better than ECU. I took SMU +3. I would still take it at +2.5. I think if anybody's smart enough with the SMU, with the ponies and the analytics department, and figures out that you need to pass on 1st and 2nd down, no matter what the distance is, even if it's short, you'll find out you'll have explosive plays because I just that was the key. That was the element how East Carolina almost won that game.
I mean, but you have to. East Carolina can be an explosive offense, and Tulsa's only played. By the way, Tulsa's only played 4 games. SMU's played 8. Tulsa, like 2 of Tulsa's 4 games came against teams ranked number 11 with pretty good players on offense. And UCF's putting up 60 points a game now. And Oklahoma State. Now, Oklahoma State had its backup quarterback, but they still have really good players on that team. And it was a team ranked number 11 at the time. I know the Oklahoma State offense has been disappointing compared to expectations, but they still have played East Carolina. They haven't had a joke schedule. Like 2 of their 4 games came against ranked teams, and East Carolina has these explosions. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
because I don't necessarily disagree with your angles, but I trust mine more, and that's why this is not an exact science, which makes this fun.
Tulsa's defense should not be getting lit up like that. That's what made me do all this gumshoe investigative reporting, because I was like, how is this happening? So we'll see. If SMU isn't passing on first and second down, then I probably lose this bet.
Yeah, I mean, the ECU game to me was concerning, but I trusted the Oklahoma, like what I saw against Oklahoma State and against UCF. And, last year when randomly ECU should have beat Cincy, they lost 46-43. Remember this? And Cincinnati's an elite defense last year and an elite defense this year. East Carolina has these random explosions. That was on November 2nd, by the way. This was the ECU Tulsa game was on October 30th. Close enough for Ailers, close enough to November. You don't want to play ECU in November. Anyway, moving on. We'll be against each other there in your backyard. Hopefully, Colin does not run onto the field and interrupt cause any shenanigans, some Mac-like shenanigans.